Hello, guys. I'm Ethan Woodworth. I am back again with another episode of the Stoic Scalping Podcast. And today, I'm going to start this one a little bit different. I'm going to open this with a quote here. Unfortunately, CNBC reports that about 80% of active managers underperform the general market. This saddens me as most individuals' retirement savings are sitting in these funds, and they aren't fully aware of this underperformance, which is costing them large sums over their lifetime. I have seen this firsthand when many people I know pay a quote-unquote professional financial advisor to manage their money by putting it into these underperforming active funds, which also charge an additional fee. Witnessing this blasphemous behavior was a major driver for me to start Matrice Capital, written by Andrew Marasco, end of 2023, start of 2024, owner and CEO of Matrice Capital. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi guys, I am Andrew Marasco, as Ethan just beautifully introduced me. I'm super happy to be here. Ethan's the best guy I know, so when he asked, I, of course, said yes. Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO at Matrice Capital. It's a hedge fund, investment fund, and what else? I like to think of myself as a philosopher as well, but mostly known for the hedge fund thing.
And what do you do? What exactly is this hedge fund? I don't know these business terms.
So should I take us back?
Take it back to where you want.
So this all started end of senior year, right? We're all trying to figure out what do we want to do with our life. I don't know. Maybe I want to. For a little bit, I thought I wanted to go into politics. Glad I didn't do that. I thought history. Then eventually I stumbled upon business and then finance within business and started getting into the crypto world.
Ooh.
Definitely a great learning experience about what is not value and what is not a reasonable way to make your living in a logical way. Then eventually stumbled upon Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, the guys along those lines, the value investors of the world, and they spoke to me. And I read The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham, which a lot of people say if you read that book and it speaks to you like the Bible might speak to a Christian, it might be a sign. And so I've run with it since, started investing, and done well, and realized I could potentially do this for a living. So now I've taken on about 8 client accounts, and yeah, just trying to go from there. Trying to improve the lives of my clients, and yeah.
I read The Intelligent Investor.
Yeah.
I think it was my freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
And I had no clue what I was reading, but like the briefs after every chapter were extremely beneficial. Like they put it into plain language. They put Ben Graham's original words into like plain English.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben Graham, the dean, the original, the OG value investor. I'm actually reading Security Analysis right now, which is his like more intense, like textbook, really nitty gritty one.
Okay.
I mean, he's the best. He taught Warren Buffett. He's the OG.
I didn't know. So he taught him. Was Buffett, 20 years younger?
So he's a Columbia professor, and he was running the Graham partnership, which is similar to what I run now. And he was really the only person teaching this value method rather than the efficient market theory where markets are completely efficient. There's no way to actually outperform and do better. And Ben Graham realized that wasn't the case. And then I believe Warren got a full ride to go over there.
Wow.
And I think it was something like, this might be wrong, where he was the only person to get an A+ in Ben Graham's class ever. And then he offered to work for him for free after. And I think Ben said no. But eventually worked for him. Interesting
The rest
stuff.
is history.
Yeah, I guess, man.
It reminds me of like Lionel Messi, like the young prodigy. Like they just come up at like 14, 15, 16 years old. But like, they're the truth.
Yeah.
It pans out.
Yeah, seriously.
And that may be you. Let's jump back into
I don't know about that, but
to your venture. How much money do you have under capital or under management?
So right now we are just over $1 million.
Okay.
Assets under management. And I just pushed out our annual letter. First year we did 35%, which is good. We outperformed the S&P, did about 25.
Yeah. I think it was 24 point something.
Yeah.
Reading your letter. I read it.
Yeah.
I read the whole thing.
And yeah, so looking to raise more money for anyone who's interested. Feel free to reach out. But to be honest, we did outperform, but I'm not happy at all with how we did. I feel like we left a lot on the table, and I'm definitely not satisfied in looking to do better in the future.
How is your investment strategy going to change in 2024?
The fundamentals don't change. Where you want me to run through the investment strategy?
Run me through it, man.
So I'm going to try to simplify it for whoever's listening, which I assume is not a super, a CFA-esque.
Yeah.
So I like to explain it like, have you seen the movie Moneyball?
Yes, Brad Pitt.
So my investment strategy is similar to the movie Moneyball. So in Moneyball, it's the general manager of the Oakland A's, the baseball team, and he has this team that basically has no money versus teams like the Yankees that have 10x the amount of money to spend on players. And what Brad Pitt realizes is all these guys got it wrong. They're all just trying to buy the players, buy the names for whatever price that may be. But the reality is your baseball team, you're trying to win games. And how do you win games? You get runs.
Performance,
you get
statistics.
runs, you get hits, and you get runs, you get enough runs, you win games. That's more or less my investment strategy. I'm not buying the names. I am buying the cash flows, and I'm trying to buy the best value for those cash flows, if that makes sense. So I'm not buying. So in the movie Moneyball, he got a pitcher for super cheap who was one of the best pitchers, but he threw weird. And because he threw weird, no one wanted him. So that's similar to what I do, right? I look at the stuff that no one wants.
It's not sexy.
At the present moment. Not sexy. Most people haven't heard of it. And I get it for very good prices. Prices that in the private markets you wouldn't see. And when I tell people about it in retrospect, they don't believe it's true. But when I tell these same people in the moment, they don't buy it because it's out of favor. And that's the whole nature of the game. It's a contrarian game. It's a lonely game out here, but I love the game, so.
And I feel like that's tough, though, because you have to have an ultimate conviction to say, I believe in this, and a real possibility of being incorrect.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the job tough.
Yeah. Well, downside protection is number one priority. Right? I have fiduciary responsibility with my clients to preserve their capital at all costs. So a lot of these companies, right, you have to go through the debt. You have to do all the work on the company to ensure that your conviction is true. You'll never know all the facts. But if you put enough work in, you can have conviction. That's also why I hold multiple positions, because stuff always happens. There are a million things that can happen. There are black swan events that can change the world, as we've seen, right? When you talk about COVID, 08, dot-com bubble, whatever. So you really just got to put in the work. And if you put in the work and you have the conviction, you go for it.
So since you haven't really, Matrice was founded when?
Started it about a year ago.
Okay. So you haven't actually seen, a full cycle per se.
Yeah.
Seen it up and down. Starting out, what differentiates you as a young investor that hasn't seen those cycles versus, let's say, someone that's been in the game for 50 years that's seen the ups and downs?
Yeah. So
why you?
So I fully understand that I'm young, very young. Many people have reached out looking to invest, and the second I say my age, they hang up the phone, which is understandable. Yeah. It's a little frustrating because not fully within my control. What I will say is I've seen cycles in industries. I've seen cycles in business. I've studied most of the major bubbles, corrections, when you date back to like the flower bubble in like a couple hundred years ago.
What was that?
It's like the tulip I'm blanking.
Some sort of bubble.
Yeah, I mean, there's always bubbles. And I think it really comes down to when I look to buy with the humongous margin of safety. So I won't buy a business unless I have very high conviction that they won't go under, first of all. And I usually need at least 3x upside within the next couple of years. So I need at least a triple on my money. I'm not, if something's half off, I'm not touching it. If it's 20% off, I'm not touching it. It needs to be a huge margin of safety. So if these things happen and we go into recession, right, the Fed hikes, interest rates, any of this happens, the margin of safety is there where I still shouldn't lose money, even if sales drop, earnings decline, all that. So I cover my bases in that way. And then we own multiple things in different sectors that might perform differently during different periods in the economy. But the truth is, right, I can't predict the future.
No.
So, yeah.
But it seems like you signal to me, which this is a good thing, that you're ultra conservative, but on the one hand, you're also outperforming the S&P index. So I feel like you're getting best of both worlds there. If I had, $100K, aka your minimum investment for your fund, I feel like I'd put it with you, man.
I appreciate it.
I love the ultra conservative take.
Yeah. Well, you have to be, so a lot of times when people think about being conservative in investing, they think hyper diversification. And it is my opinion, which then reduces volatility. It is my opinion and most great investors that volatility does not necessarily equal risk, and owning a bunch of companies that you might not understand that well does not necessarily mean you're de-risked, right? If you look at someone like Charlie Munger, multi-billionaire, he only owns like 4 companies. And he'll tell you he's more diversified than almost anyone because he owns very high quality companies.
He believes in them.
Right? I mean, a lot of these companies own other companies, but these are companies like Costco, like Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway is like a whole market in itself. They do everything. But yeah, I don't believe that owning 50 companies that you kind of know is better than owning 5 that you really know, have real good understanding that in these companies you have protection for your principal invested and meaningful upside.
So with this, you kind of pick out these ones you believe in. How do you go about this process? Because in my financial accounting class, we talked a lot about the SEC and kind of going over their documents and looking over their cash statements and this and that, and the balance sheets, income statements.
SEC Edgar.
Is that your main source, or kind of what else are you using to pour over these documents? Press releases like Bloomberg. Yeah. What are you?
So what I would say is over the past couple of years, I've created a lot of systems in place that will push me out ideas.
That's real.
And there are multiple different systems that I use. But for example, I wake up in the morning and in my inbox, I'll have tons of pitches that are pushed out to me that are vetted through value-oriented newsletters and whatnot, because they've already gone through a filter process. And then I also will use different screeners online that'll screen based on different fundamental metrics. There are plenty of forums online. Twitter is a great place if you follow the right people. X. And
I wouldn't assume that.
And the reality is that I only find something I really, really, really like a couple times a year. So, right. So what does that mean? That means like 1 in every 1,000 or something. So you're going to say no to almost everything, which makes sense because I'm looking for these true anomalies.
And that's hard, especially the people I know that sports bet. It's like, I'm not saying you're betting. I think it's different, but at the same time, like you're trying to find that golden horse. And I feel like it's easy to get so wrapped up into something, especially if you're hearing the same news getting spit back at you, like all positive news. Like I feel like that I'd be like, bye.
Yeah. I mean, usually for me, right, if we're looking for things that can highly outperform, we're looking at the stuff that's sell. We're looking at the stuff that's overly hated. Because I mean, if you track back through history, like when's the best time, right? You're in real estate. Like when was the best time to buy real estate?
Yeah, right after '08.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the world was burning. Yeah. Like when was the best time to buy oil? 2020.
Yeah. Same with real estate in 2020 when interest rates were rock bottom. They were SOFR was zero.
Right. But then when you're in that moment, no one is thinking that because no one stays level-headed, especially when money's involved. So that's what I try to do. So like right now, like natural gas is tanking. I'm sifting through a lot of natural gas opportunities. You're not seeing me necessarily. I'm not sifting through really these AI companies that are like pre-revenue trading for infinite amount of money. So if that gives you a sense, right? You gotta be in this business. You gotta be contrarian, right? When everyone's running out of the movie theater because someone screamed fire, you're probably running in. Hopefully you don't get burned.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And with this, when will you know it's maybe time to get employees under you? Like I feel like you're doing quite a bit of work. Is there a point where you kind of start outsourcing some of the work, or maybe have you outsourced any of the work? From my understanding, you're a lone man in Matrice Capital.
Yeah, I mean it is just me. Shout out my father, Michael Marasco, best dad ever. He helps me with a lot of the accounting, which is super nice, and he's a businessman himself, so super. I can talk to him whenever, and there are people that I talk to.
What does he do?
So my dad was, he ran the Entrepreneurship Center at Northwestern for about 15 years.
That's right.
And now he does commercial real estate. He does real estate development, and he has a startup.
Cool.
But
that's fun. Startups and development are fun.
Yeah, cool guy. I love you, Dad. If you're listening to this, we might have had some arguments over text today, but it's all good. Yeah, just to track back for hiring people. I mean, when I say I theoretically have all these analysts working for me who are pushing out all these reports for free. But what I would say is, first of all, if you look at someone like Warren Buffett, basically him doing what I've done is created about $1 trillion company. I mean, it's not trading at $1 trillion right now, but it's on its way.
Berkshire?
Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway. And he doesn't have any analysts. Rest in peace, Charlie Munger. He had Charlie Munger. Because the reality is, I say one in every 1,000, right? So I would not want to hire someone and put them through that with me, where they are constantly pushing me ideas and I'm constantly saying no. And because it comes down to me, and it has to be my conviction because I'm the one who's
fund it is.
It's my responsibility to my clients. So I don't think it makes sense to hire analysts. And I think it's probably a net negative because there's then a lot of time involved with that versus the value provided versus my time being spent treasure hunting.
Yeah.
So I don't think it makes sense. Eventually maybe bring on some back office type people, but I don't think we're necessarily there yet. But
I could be a back office type person.
I think you're gonna be doing what I'm doing not too long in the real estate space, my friend. So I don't know if
I hope so.
Yeah.
We can stay connected. I can funnel some clients to you and they can invest their earnings with you.
And then we gotta go look at some crazy real estate that we should go in and halfsies on.
We can find some like super opportunistic like development and like we just both believe in it, but we're both getting like 30-40% returns and just go nuts.
Yeah, I'm game. Yeah, I'm actually looking at a home builder right now. I'm not going to say the ticker, but because I'm not trying to lead anyone on here, but yeah, the home building space is interesting.
You think are people kind of wary about it right now and low on it, and that's why you're looking at it?
Well, the home builder thesis actually has almost nothing to do with the cyclicality of it. It's that there are multiple different models within the home builder business, and there is one vastly superior model, and then most people don't use it. So the typical home builder, you think about it, they buy a piece of land, and then they build all these houses, and then they try to sell them. that's a very risky business, and you're taking on a ton of risk, ton of liability. You're sitting on all this debt capital, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of just praying. But then there's the other model, which was pioneered by this company called NVR. If you bought NVR in 2000, it's like 1,000x or something.
Oh,
You would have done 100x, maybe. You would have done better than if you had bought Apple in that time.
wow. See, and like I would have never known that.
Yeah. Well, now you do.
Now I do.
That's why we're friends. You teach me something new more often than I do you. So there you go.
That's crazy.
So basically, what they do, it's not the same model. What they do is everything's pre-sold. They don't build till everything's sold, and they also have. I'm a little bit confused. They have these options on the land where if they don't sell a certain amount, then they are able to give it back. So they're basically taking on no risk, and they're able to construct these homes. And then the best part about what they do, which is what the company I'm looking at is actually in the early stages of, is all this excess capital is funneled back into share buybacks. It's not dividends, it's share buybacks.
So they really believe in.
So as a shareholder, they're able to build all these developments at no risk, continuously grow in that regard.
Funnel it
and
back.
then they're able to shrink the share count. So you as a shareholder, as they grow, you're also shrinking your share count, which means your earnings per share are growing. So it's kind of a compounding effect. So they've bought back well over half their share count.
Wow. And that signals strong to investors, like we believe in this company.
Yeah. Well, especially if the stock is trading at a cheap valuation, right? So if you buy back half your shares, even if earnings stay the same, that stock's a double because your ownership in the company is doubled.
Mm-hmm.
So share buybacks are a very, very interesting space that I've been paying attention to more because I missed the coal trade. Coal has outperformed semiconductors over the past 6 months. I was eyeing a couple coal companies over the past year, and I totally missed it. And I
thought you were talking about coals, like the shop coals, but you're talking about coal.
Coal mining.
Coal.
Yeah, like coking coal and thermal coal. Yep, that kind of coal. Because these companies, for obvious reasons, due to environmental concerns, similar to cigarette companies, trade at super depressed valuations, which is fair. But what some of these coal companies decide to do, if you're trading at 2 times earnings, that means you can buy back half your shares in 1 year, technically.
Yeah.
So some of these guys started just funneling the money back in, and their stocks have skyrocketed because they actually woke up to the realities of capital allocation, and there are better places to put your money necessarily than sometimes like overpaying for a coal mine or dividends, because dividends you get double taxed on.
Yep.
So that's what they did, and
wow,
they've outperformed semiconductors, which have been the hot place to be lately.
That's interesting, man. And wrapping back to what you were saying about this home builder, my sister works out in Arizona in Scottsdale for a company called Walton. Maybe it's Walden. It's not they just take the home builder's land and they keep it on their they keep it as an asset to keep it off of the home builder's like sheet so they don't get all
off their balance
out of whack. And then they just try to find like investors for this land, and the investors get paid out continuously over 4 years as the houses are built.
Oh, interesting. So find investors, not people who are buying the property.
No.
Interesting.
It's really, I think I'm explaining it poorly, but she's explained it to me so many times, but they get like reimbursed throughout the period if they invested early as the homes get put up. I was going to ask you, looking forward, we've talked about Matrice, whatever you want to say. What are the goals for the future? Like let's say 5 years out from now, 2029. Where do you want this fund to be? Where do you want to be?
Yeah. So I spent a lot more time thinking about what my life looks like outside of business.
That's more important. And I want you to know that is more important, and I will stand behind that. I think your life will, if you can attain those things that you want, in your personal life, you'll have a better experience on this planet.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. And that's definitely that side of the game is definitely what's lacking. Well, everyone talks about balance, right?
Balance. The big word.
Balance, right? The work-life balance. Like, I'm not gonna act like I'm just gonna completely change how I act and work a 9 to 5 hour and then go home and watch Netflix for a couple hours and eat a bunch of shit food. Like, that's like, I'm not gonna act like that's what my life will look like. But I do spend a lot of time thinking about what family makeup will look like, what a wife would look like, because that is kind of what is. It's kind of what I'm interested in these days. Probably because I'm lacking that
Italian babe.
Yeah, the girl question's definitely an interesting one. Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I've been with some girls throughout the years. No one,
they haven't lifted you up like a friend. I feel like for me, in a positive relationship with a female, like it's almost like she's one of the boys. Like, she's lifting me up to be a better person and challenging me in the same sense.
Yeah.
While also having, the romantic side.
Yeah. And I think a big thing, I actually had a conversation with someone about this. So I'm not going to say who's dating a decently famous guy. This is a little bit ago. I can tell you about it after. But she was having issues because he's working all the time. And I say, it's like, if you want to be in this guy's life who's not the normal guy, right? Not working the normal hours, whatever, you have to realize that his main goal is bigger than you. And that if you get in the way, you're probably going to get left behind. And I think that's big, right? It's like the right girl motivates you and not the right girl distracts you.
Yeah.
And in my life, it's been distract. And I don't really have any tolerance for that. So it kind of leads me to push those girls away in a very quick manner. Nothing against them. I'm just, I at least like to think I'm not the typical guy. So,
but I want you to know, I feel like there are girls out there that can compliment what you do.
Yeah, for sure.
Understand the work that you put in and understand your mindset and grind.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Yeah. And
8 billion fish.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 4.2 or whatever it is. Yeah, no, I fully agree that. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I don't want a girl who's just, like, going to bow down, because that's just silly. That's not, I'm looking for a girl who's going to, Warren Buffett, one of my heroes, he says, try to marry someone who's a little bit better than you and hope they don't find out too soon. And I fully agree with that.
That, I like that.
Yeah, which is, I fully agree with that. And there are great girls out there, and I've met some of them. And yeah, that's one of the things that gets me excited. Gets me excited, man.
You're just full of Buffett quotes.
I've learned more from that guy and Munger, and more than any Harvard MBA, any years of schooling will teach you.
Yeah, I feel like if Warren Buffett's, so deep entrenched in your life where you're pulling him up for personal relationship quotes, that's when you know you're a business guy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. One of the learning models I use is I look for people I really admire and I like study them, try to get in their head, and I do that with Buffett and Munger, like just countless hours, to the point where like you ask, like I'm watching these annual meetings and I hear the question and I know how the question is going to be answered. And I've tried to do that with a lot of people who I look up to, not just in the business world, because I think there's been so many years before us and so many learnings that
people forget
that you can kind of clone Cloning's one of the biggest models I use. You can clone the people from before and kind of put your own spin on it rather than just thinking that you have to learn everything yourself.
Because it's probably been done before.
Yeah, everything's been done before, right? There's been plenty of people who have bought and sold pieces of businesses like I do, and there will be plenty after.
Yeah.
And I'm fully aware of that. So
that's like a very deep realization, I feel like, because I'll give an example here. I'm reading a book. It's about Richard Nixon through Ronald Reagan. I'm big into presidential history.
Really?
And this is like, it's telling just about like the transformation from Nixon's presidency to Reagan's with a few presidents in between. And the shit that like people were complaining about and doing and thinking in the 1970s, it is exactly reflected in today's political and just world climate in 2024.
Yeah.
And like when I read the book, and it's a very well researched book with a lot of quotations, parallels, just I can pull just straight up from 40, 50 years ago, which it's not going away.
Yeah.
And that's in every realm of I think our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very nice.
Change happens, but I want to say it's not as drastic as people think.
Yeah. It's very naive to think that everything's so much better and new now.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it, right? I see Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. Right?
Yeah.
Banger. Right? Like if you read a lot of the Stoics, for example, it's like...
Same stuff.
It's like they had our minds figured out way before. And yeah. So, I mean, most of what I've done to date has been just learning, just like completely obsessing and learning over the people that were hyper successful in my space before and trying to copy in a way. You know, you put your own twist on it, but copying, it's called cloning, at least in my world, is something that everyone seems to have some sort of negative outlook towards.
They shouldn't.
Which they shouldn't. I mean, you see it in business. Like I was telling you about NVR, like this is a superior business model, the home builder.
Oh yeah.
You're only seeing now, decades later, that some of these companies are copying what they're doing. Because there's just some reason where people feel like they can't copy. But like if you take Microsoft, for example, basically every major product that Microsoft uses right now was a clone of some type. And you shouldn't take that, you shouldn't hear that and say, Microsoft's a fraud. You should hear that and say, it's not as much about the idea as it is the execution upon that idea. And that they're actually smart. They don't have to reinvent the wheel.
They are the wheel.
Exactly. I mean, right? You see it like when the ChatGPT stuff came out.
Yeah.
Right? They just bought half of OpenAI. They didn't go and try to build it themselves. Or you saw it with Amazon Web Services when they released just the big cloud computing. If you guys don't know, Amazon Web Services is basically what makes Amazon most of their money, while they lose money on all the stuff and allows them to do what they do because they have the AWS cash cow milking in money.
Dude, we can wrap this up. Do you have any other takeaways?
We were talking about this before, but we both seem to have this similar belief. I don't want to speak for you, but that you surround yourself with people who you look up to in a way and who you want to be like. And we were saying like Ethan right now doesn't necessarily have like a business, but he has all these traits that I look up to and that I admire. And I think you're a much better person than I am. And I was watching your YouTube videos, where everyone should go check them out, where you took your truck out west. And like, that's something that I wouldn't say I would never do, because right, like we were talking about, you can't, but that's very impressive and very cool. And I admire your ability to do that and to just live in the moment. Cause I don't think I ever am really able to live in the moment. And so I really admire you, man.
Well, I'll reciprocate that energy back. And I love what you bring to my life. And I look up to you in the sense where you're an extremely hard worker. And I can see that. And I like associating myself with extremely hard workers. And there's part of me that's in that ever debate of like, I just want to go adventure and truck camp and do stuff like that. But the other part of me is like, I want to create something that's special. And that's what you're doing. And that's what I look up to. And that's why you like the shoebox going to be around entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's the same sense of me wanting to be around people like you that are creating and doing and challenging.
Yeah. I think it's a
special thing. And thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to the future, man.
Yeah.
The unknown is super exciting.
It is very exciting. That's the perspective you have to take.
I mean, right? Like if I woke up and all my dreams became a reality, that would be the worst thing to ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because then what are you going to do? Right? It's not, right? So it's exciting. You gotta have that mentality.
So I was reading Dostoevsky, who's like a Russian author, I think in the 1800s sometime, and he was a wise guy. And he was like, if you gave somebody like a chair on a beach and a piece of cake every day, they would eventually go insane, like batshit crazy. Did they just want to break something?
Yeah.
Like a utopia would just never exist because humans just like...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a thought experiment, right? It's like if you could wake up tomorrow and have $1 trillion, the most beautiful, like everything. Sure, it might be nice for a couple days, but eventually you're going to want something where you don't know the outcome, where you don't know what's going to happen. So if you think about it, the real dream is tomorrow, today. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Are we going to get into Da Vinci tonight for some pizza? I don't know. Hopefully.
What am I going to order?
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you going to order?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll figure it out tonight, dude. That's so awesome. Just being able to make decisions and being healthy, like it's a blessing, dude. Yeah. So just take it and run with it and be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Dude, yeah, thank you for coming on and thank you for being a good friend, and I'm excited for all the growth in the future.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next, and yeah, exciting times, and thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Got it. We'll have to do it again, maybe.
For sure.
Cool. This is Ethan Woodworth here with Andrew Marasco. Thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.